Good afternoon, YouTubers. Welcome back in to your final round of Astros recap, at least for the 2022 year. I am David Artis. It is Wednesday, October 9th, 2022 p.m., 2:57 p.m. Obviously, Astros are 2022 World Series champions, so never get tired of saying that. Celebration sort of has died down. Now we're at the satisfaction phase of this, which will last until next season starts. So nice to know you won the World Series, and you have your second in 6 years for AL pennants. We'll talk about a lot of things here. Talk about Game 6. Only one real game to talk about, obviously the biggest game of the year. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about where the Astros sort of stand, and also sort of going forward, looking toward next year. But yeah, I mean they did it. When this happened back in 2017, you think about all the moves throughout the year. AJ Hinch, you win the World Series, everything else sort of goes away. So, but yeah, I mean it was fun. Obviously, they won at home. That was the first time. I didn't even know the stat. I mean, if I thought about it, I could have come up with it. But 2013 was the last year actually a home team won the World Series on their home turf, which was the Red Sox. So, I mean, just think about this real quick. 14, so the Giants won. Where did the Giants? They won in Kansas City in 14. In 15, the Royals won in New York. 16, the Cubs won in Cleveland. 17, the Astros won in Los Angeles. 18, the Red Sox won in Los Angeles. 19, the Nationals won in Houston. 20, COVID year, Dodgers won in Arlington. 21, Braves won in Houston. And then, yeah, finally, 22, the Astros win at home. So, obviously fun to do it at home. Home crowd. Had all the bars. Every place popping outside the ballpark, Union Station, everything going on. Would have been fun to be actually down there. Obviously, I wasn't. I worked that day. I got home, watched the game. I had friends over after. We popped some champagne. That was fun. Post-game show that I listened to on the radio went on 24 hours, it felt like. Or I was able to hang in till 3 a.m. on that Saturday, by the way. That was also, we lost or we gained an hour. So it's actually 4 a.m. if you want to play that game. But 3 a.m. And then, yeah, I was tired and I fell asleep. So, and I had to work the next day. So, yeah, it wasn't like I could party all night and not worry about Sunday. I did have to work the next day. So, but anyway, yeah, we're at the satisfaction phase. It's been, let's see, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's been 3-4 days. The parade happened on Monday. So, for the 1.2 million people that actually went to the parade, I give you credit. I was not one of those people. I thought I'd see a lot more. Like, I wanted to be more part of the celebration that happened after the game, right outside the ballpark. I was not big on the parade just because where do I park? What type of spot do I get? Do I see a whole lot? I said, listen, I'll sleep in. I'll turn on the news, and I'll see a lot more on the news than I'd ever see if I was actually there. So, yeah. But all that's sort of overdone with. Now we sort of move on. We have the World Series. We're happy about that. But we think about a lot of dynasty talk. Dynasty, I've been hearing a lot. My stance on it is I don't think they're a dynasty. Now, if you want to say American League dynasty, then I can get on board with that because they've won 4 pennants in the last 6 years. So they've gone to the World Series 66% of the time in the last 6 years. So, yes, they've done a lot of winning the AL pennant, but you got to win 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, something in that range, World Series. And they didn't win in 20, 21, 19, 18. I mean, there's a 4-year stretch, 18, 19, 20, a 4-year stretch where they didn't win a World Series. So I can't, get on the whole dynasty train here, unless you're talking just specifically American League pennant dynasty type thing. I can get on board with that. Not, I mean, you classify a dynasty as a team that wins multiple World Series in a certain stretch. The Astros have won 2 World Series. They've been to the World Series 4 times. So, I mean, you know, it's... So I wanted to, talk about that for a minute. Talk about players. So, Game 6, before I get too far ahead here. Game 6 obviously turned. Now, Framber Valdez was great. It was 0-0. The Astros had, I felt like, a few opportunities. They couldn't cash them in early on. Zach Wheeler was dealing. Framber Valdez was, it was really, 0-0 for a while. It felt like one run really would stand up, and Schwarber hit the home run off Valdez to give them that one run. Nobody in Houston wanted to play a Game 7. This wasn't, if you had to play a Game 7, you had to play a Game 7, but we just were so wrapped up in closing this thing out in 6. It just felt like it was really now or never. I'm not saying they wouldn't have won Game 7. It would have been interesting who you pitched, McCullers, Javier. I won't get too deep into that, but yeah. By the way, just if you hear background noise, I got the fan blowing right here. So if you hear any noise, and this mic probably already has sounded, it gets staticky and yeah. So you might have already heard that if it's going on right now, maybe even. This will be the last podcast I do with this mic. I can almost guarantee you that. Since this is the last one, I will go get a new mic that should be much better. But yeah, I've had issues with this mic, and I don't hear the issues with it until after I listen to the podcast. So just mic, fan, that's what I got going on right here. As I was saying, yeah, so 0-0. Pitchers were inning by inning. Schwarber hit the home run. That was a big one at the time. That was in the top half of the 6th. But the Astros answered quickly. Now, Rob Thompson will get criticized for this, as he should. But taking out Zach Wheeler at 70 pitches. He had first and third, 1 out, so there's no guarantee he gets out of that inning unscathed, but he deserved the chance to. But Rob Thompson went to Alvarez. The Astros have seen him a lot. Alvarez has seen him, and obviously Alvarez put the ball over the batter's eye in center field for the 3-run shot, and then that was pretty much it at that point. That was dead, or the Phillies were dead at that point. Vasquez added an RBI single later, and yeah, the bullpen came in, did the job, as they've been doing all postseason. The Astros, celebrate. So, yeah, I mean, think about the postseason. Alvarez started it with a bang, ended it with a bang. So Alvarez was big. So many storylines to talk about. Dusty Baker obviously getting his first World Series is big. He will be returning next year. We'll talk about him a little bit more coming up. But Dusty Baker getting his first World Series. The pitching, just all around, just great all year. From the starters, Verlander's going to win the Cy Young. I see no way he doesn't. Just everybody you think about, just up and down. Just think about this: Verlander, Valdez, Christian Javier threw no hitter in Game 4. Well, combined no hitter. You got Urquidy still in the mix there. I think he actually had a pretty decent year. Obviously, Luis Garcia. I didn't even mention Lance McCullers. He's a guy that I struggled in the Game 3 start, but he's still there. Still going to be a starter. If he stays healthy, that's the big question. But I just named 6 guys. Hunter Brown will be in the mix next year. They just have so many guys in the rotation. It's insane. So, yeah, and then you think about the bullpen. And, Hector Neris, I'm not huge on, but he got big outs in the postseason. You got credit for that. Brian Abreu was amazing. Obviously, Montero, Presley, just up and down. Just the pitching just was incredible. That's a big storyline. And Jeremy Pena. I talked about somebody stepping up in the postseason. I didn't think that, Jeremy Pena would be that guy. But, man, was he ever. And I didn't need a guy to step up to go on to win, ALCS and World Series MVPs, but Jeremy Pena did. Just incredible. Very proud of the Astros, very proud of this team. And, fans obviously excited, and it's awesome. Nothing's better than winning the World Series. So, yeah, a lot of credit, a lot of credit. So yeah, those are the big storylines. Dusty Baker got extended 1 year. He's on a one year, 1-by-1 basis. This actually surprised me. I didn't think Dusty would come back. I thought that he would want to retire on top. The one thing missing from his big managerial resume was the World Series. He got that, so I thought he'd want to sort of end on top there. But he wants to come back. And yeah, they signed him. So I'm not like upset with the scenario, but I was always wanting Joe Espada to be our manager. And I feel like I don't know how many positions are necessarily open, but teams will be wanting, I would think, Joe Espada to be their manager. So, and I just sort of, once they fired A.J. Hinch back after 2019, was it? Yeah. I thought Espada would sort of move up, and that was not the case. Dusty's here. I just wish Dusty would get rid of the latex rubber gloves next year. I don't like the whole rubber glove thing. I don't know why he does that. So anyway, get rid of those. I can't blame. I mean, Dusty pushed all the right buttons in the playoffs. I mean, there wasn't a wrong move that I could think of. So Dusty, for the most part, you know, there's that one game against the White Sox I'll never forget. But again, like I said earlier, they won the World Series. I throw everything else out the window almost. I mean, you won the ultimate goal. So, but yeah, I think about that White Sox game when he took out Urquidy and brought in Montero and it blew up in his face. One mistake Dusty made that cost him a game all year. So yeah. Talked about the dynasty. So we'll look forward a little bit to next season now. James Click, I think, is on a 1-year extension. This whole thing, there's some disconnect. I was just listening to a video, an interview with Chandler Rome, the Houston Chronicle. But there's some disconnect in the upper front office here. James Click, Dusty Baker, I don't know if they get along particularly well. Jim Crane might have something to do with that. I don't know, Jim Crane. Obviously, I think Crane loves Baker. He keeps signing him. But he refuses to give Click a long-term extension, which is what Click wants. Now, James Click, the GM, has done a great job, I think. Obviously, coming over after they fired Jeff Luhnow after the 2019 year. James Click, obviously, 2020 COVID year, no trade deadline. I throw that season out, basically. But in 2021, 2022, he's made the moves every year at the deadline to improve the team and fix what they lack, basically. 2021, the bullpen was a big issue. He brought in Kendall Graveman, Phil Maton, Rafael Montero, Yimi Garcia. He added 4 relievers that instantly made the bullpen a lot better. This year, he added, first Mancini to give them some more depth, whether it was outfield, first base, DH, whatever. I know that didn't work out as good as they had hoped, but he added depth there. He goes out. He also gets Christian Vasquez as a backup catcher, which is I didn't think that was going to happen, actually. I thought they were going to just roll with Castro got hurt, but Corey Lee, Yanair Diaz, one of those guys I thought was just going to have to sort of be the backup and, Martin Maldonado just catch and God forbid you get hurt, basically. But he brought in Christian Vasquez, which was huge. And then Will Smith, you look at the moves. I mean, Vasquez had the big RBI for insurance in Game 6 there, but Will Smith didn't work out. Trey Mancini, after having the first week in an Astros uniform, he had like 4 or 5 home runs. But after that, he was abysmal. Made a good play in Game 5. Give him credit for that at first base after Yuli got hurt. So, but a lot of questions as I look at next year. We'll see how this thing shakes out. Dusty Baker obviously is back. He's signed his deal. James Click I don't think has yet. Don't know how that's going to turn out, but I like James Click. He's done the job so far. And he was going to be graded harshly because of what Jeff Luhnow, a lot of sports also brought up just the players. I think they said 19 of the 26 guys were still Jeff Luhnow's sort of people. But James Click has done a very good job, so I don't know why we're having an issue or why Jim Crane doesn't want to sign him long term. I don't know how long term is, but I'd give him easily a 2-3 year deal and say, just keep doing what you've been doing because it's worked. But that's where we're kind of at there. So we'll wait and see how it shakes out. Don't know how it will, but there is some sort of controversy, disconnect in the front office between the three in terms of Jim Crane, James Click, and Dusty Baker. There's that. But looking forward, off-season, if James Click is indeed back, there are a lot of things you got to look at now. Verlander, it's a player option for him. $25 million, he can return if he wants. Doesn't have to. In fact, part of me doesn't want him to. Now, obviously, you like the veteran leadership. He'll be coming off another Cy Young Award. He was incredible this year. 18-4, 1.75 ERA. But the Astros have so many pitchers, really. Do you really need Verlander? And I don't want to sound like I don't want him or don't need him, but the $25 million can be used to acquire other positions that I think are much more in need than the pitching side of things. But we'll see how things go. I'd love to have Verlander back, but if that prevents us from improving, let's say with an outfield bat, which is obviously something they need, that, can hurt. And I just named all the pitchers that are starters. I just named 7 guys that can start for the Astros next year. So maybe if you throw out Verno at 6, but, they have a very deep and surplus of pitching that if Verlander didn't exercise his player option, it wouldn't, be the biggest loss, I feel like, in the world. Just got news, Trey Mancini and Will Smith, we did not pick up their options, so they are free agents. I don't think the Astros will be willing to re-sign either of them, really, to be honest with you. But I looked at the free agent market, or the free agent, not the market. I don't know who are free agents this year. For the Astros, though, I do. Christian Vasquez is a free agent. Rafael Montero. Michael Brantley. Forgetting somebody else. I don't know. But, yeah. I thought Martin Maldonado was also a free agent, but I didn't see his name on the list, so I guess Martin will be back with the team next year. But, Kyle Tucker's a guy they got to look at. I don't know how many more years of arbitration he's got, but he's a guy that's probably next to get a long-term deal. So you're looking at signing him long-term, possibly. Do you try to re-sign Michael Brantley? There is a risk there. I can't imagine them paying him a lot of money just with the injury and knowing he's had injuries in the past. But do you try to re-sign Michael Brantley? I know Jordan Alvarez plays a lot of left field now, so that might prevent them from signing Michael Brantley. We'll see. But they do need an outfielder, and preferably a center fielder is what they need. I know Chas McCormick hit a few home runs. Had that amazing play at the wall there in Philly in Game 5. But I don't think he's a long-term answer in center field. So I do think they need to look for an outfield bat and a guy that can play center field. I do think Jake Myers will get another chance next year at some point. I don't know exactly. I think he'll get another shot, but I do think they need an outfield bat, preferably center field. Will be something they need. Yuli was another guy I thought was a free agent, but I didn't see his name on the list either. So Yuli might be back. Obviously, you got Altuve, you got Bregman, you got Pena, the rest of the infield there. Where do they look for backup catcher? Montero's another guy. So Montero being the 8th inning guy, it's the same situation as Verlander in the sense that they have so many, like Brian Abreu, who was incredible in the postseason. I could see him being a setup guy. in the 8th inning. So I don't even think Montero is necessarily a guy you need to bring back. Now, I'd like to have him back, but again, if it prevents them from improving in other areas that need improvement, that's where I think it could hurt. So, but Montero and Verlander are two guys that if they left, I don't think it would hurt that much. Sounds weird, especially in the Verlander front, because every year he's pitched for the Astros, he's been incredible, and he's the veteran, but he's going to cost you $25 million more. So, you know. But a lot of moves. I will be getting back on once more in the off season, probably after the new year, after the winter meetings, most likely, just because that's usually when moves come down. Yeah, that'll sort of an off-season report and tell you where we're at as we get closer to spring training. But yeah, just satisfaction, the validation, winning the second World Series. I go back to work with the Astros tomorrow, first time since, more than a month ago. Educational tours, gotta hate educational tours. Hate those so much. But it'll be fun to be back at least. They won the World Series and, just sort of, it's good for the organization, business. Obviously, I got hired after they won the World Series in 2017 because business was at an all-time high. I guess we could sort of expecting that again, so it's good for our tours business. It'll be fun just to be there with you, celebrating with some of the coworkers. If we do anything, we'll see, but it'll be fun just to be back for the first time since they won the World Series. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm sort of, thinking of the Astros, like I'm trying to finish out this season and some of the off season, but sort of move on. I mean, I've tried to sort of move up in the organization that hasn't really worked out in my favor, but I've moved on sort of more into radio, working the board, producing shows, and I'm more interested in that, I feel like, than anything with the Astros at this point. So yeah, I mean, I've been with the Astros since 18 now. This is my 18, 19, 20, 21. This is my fifth season with the team, and now we go into another off season, which things usually slow down off season wise. I get hired in like February and March, where the season was sort of, spring training was starting, and we were getting into the routine of pregame tours, OETs, owners experience tours that the season has to offer. But after they won the World Series, I would expect business to still be high. Educational tours, obviously, that brings in a lot of our revenue. So I don't want to get too off topic here, but that still falls into the category of the Astros and my involvement in the organization. So, yeah, I didn't want to get too deep into the off-season talk because I also will have another podcast that will talk about that. But I pretty much went through everything. I thought this would take longer than 24 minutes here, but yeah. Well, I mean, what am I missing? But yeah, Gurriel and Maldonado, two guys I thought are free agents, maybe they're not. So I just didn't see them. Like, I watch MLB Network, and for every team they have the key FAs, key free agents. And people like Brantley and Vasquez and Montero and other guys were on that list. But I did not see a Yuli Gurriel, and I did not see a Martin Maldonado. So I assume if they're not on that list, then they'll be back. So, but we'll wait and see extensions. Like I said, Kyle Tucker needs to get a long-term deal. It's time to lock him up long-term. If you start there, then you got to use... I don't know what the payroll is. I don't know what the luxury tax... can't give you specifics and numbers when it comes to the Astros and the way they pay people, so, or how they can go about paying people. I don't know if they want to go... Kyle Tucker... How many more eligible arbitration years is left? I'm sure Kyle Tucker's ready to be paid, and he's played his. I mean, he really put a stamp. The 2020 year was big for him. I know it was the COVID year, but that was the first year we actually saw Kyle Tucker really perform. So, I just got the update too with Mancini and Will Smith being the Astros declining their options, which is no shock to anybody. But Tucker, it's time for him to get a long-term deal. The way I see it. Yep. And then, I don't know. I can't answer a lot of these questions. We're still, satisfaction, validation, keywords. I'll ride this entire offseason. Satisfaction, validation. But yeah, I mean, we'll sort of wrap things up. I'm trying to think of things I'm forgetting here, but, love to hear your comments. Obviously, section below. Like the video, share it with your friends. All that good stuff. Astros are 2022 World Series champions. Feels incredible. Awesome. It's 2 titles now. Let's continue to do it. But we'll build. There'll be losses and there'll be additions going into next year, and we'll be waiting to see how that shakes out. But I'll wrap things up there, and I will say goodbye to you for a few months here before I talk to you again. Hopefully, sound quality, things are better next time you hear from me. Hopefully, I have another good microphone, better microphone. So, for this season, all the microphone troubles, all the quality, sound quality that wasn't perfect because of the staticky sound, I apologize. But hopefully next time I speak to you, we're all good. But this is David Artis. This is Astros Recap. And I am officially signing off for the 2022 World Series champion Houston Astros. And we'll see you again next year.